Dips versus bench press. Which is the king of upper body exercises? Bodybuilding stereotypes are still present to this day. The barbell lifts are seen as the main course. They're the serious lift in your program, whereas bodyweight movements like dips are seen as just dessert that's sprinkled in at the end of a workout as a finisher, burnout, or just for some variety. There's misconceptions about calisthenics. To this day, people still believe that bodyweight exercises are inferior to barbells and dumbbells. This is 2025. We understand that the body knows tension and you can build muscle with bodyweight exercise. In powerlifting, dips aren't a competition lift. Therefore, they're seen as an accessory exercise to build up your chest and triceps to increase your bench. Beginner exercise. It's not something for the serious lifter, despite the fact that the average person can't even do 30 full range of motion dips. We're also forgetting we can add weight to the dip for a lifetime of progressive overload, unlocking superhuman levels of strength and upper body size. The average calisthenics bro looks like he's been sculpted by a Greek god with chiseled pecs, delts, and triceps, using predominantly the dip. What are the pros and cons of choosing one exercise over the other? The problem with dips is you're at the mercy of the equipment that's available at your gym. And let's be honest, at most commercial gyms, the bars are either too wide or too narrow. This causes you to awkwardly flare out if you've got this wide grip, or you can barely fit between the close setting on the dip bars. That lack of customization is a real downside of training the dip. If you can't find an option that suits your body type, you're likely to skip the exercise, and that's what most people do. I'll teach you some workarounds a bit later on. Being fat makes the dip hard. That's the unspoken benefit of this exercise. Being leaner is challenging. It's hard to get a visible six-pack and striations everywhere, veins popping out, because you have to stick to the healthy lifestyle, stay on top of your nutrition, and keep this going. When you're lighter and leaner, you're going to be flying around like a feather during dips. It's this positive feedback loop which keeps you motivated and accountable to stick to your nutrition, because there's a direct correlation with your level of body fat as well as your dip performance. The heavier you are with excess fat, the harder dips become. You don't want this extra baggage weighing you down if you're the calisthenics enjoyer. This is because it's dead weight. It's going to make it much harder to push yourself through space, let alone overcome gravity at the same time. Real talk, those who are the strongest at dips have maximized their relative strength pound for pound ratio by being around 10% body fat. If you're serious about training dips, you can't be going balls deep, eating junk food and excessive calories all the time. It's going to hinder your calisthenics performance. With dips, you've got a greater range of motion. There's an increased stretch happening through the anterior delts, the chest, as well as the triceps, which is really effective for hypertrophy. It's a closed kinetic chain exercise. You're building up your body weight strength, your stability, because the hands are fixed and the body moves. The scapula is free to move around during dips, promoting healthy shoulder function. All of those rotator cuff and trap muscles have to be strong to support your main pressing muscles in dips. All of that hard work is going to result in a pair of resilient, flexible, and strong shoulders when you build up that range of motion gradually. The downside of dips is it's often too challenging for beginners to jump into straight away with their full body weight. You have to find ways to reduce the intensity, such as using an assisted dip machine or using bands to offload body weight. Dips require more shoulder mobility than the average person has. It's the hard fact. It takes patient progress over months and years for some people to do dips with full ROM comfortably. In reality, people expect to do dips on day one, no problem. Rushing straight into the exercise without enough mobility is a recipe for disaster. It's not the dip's fault for causing pain and injury. It's actually our fault for not addressing our weaknesses with scapular control, flexibility, and just gradually introducing dips slowly. On the other hand, when you're doing dips, it's a real skill. Trying to figure out where that 90-degree range of motion is, where your rear delt is below your elbow, takes kinesthetic awareness of where your body is in space and a ton of practice to get consistent. When you've got 1, 2, 3 plates hanging between your legs on a dip, it commands respect. People look over from the other side of the gym and they see this absolute meathead banging out dips, weight plates clanging between the thighs. Intuitively, people understand the dip is hard. It requires that flexibility, stability, and body control, which is a completely different world from what happens during bench press. Unfortunately, ego lifting and the bench press have been a match made in heaven since the first weight was hoisted many centuries ago. It's such a tempting exercise to cheat in many ways. You can just bounce the bar off the chest, you can arch the back, you can lift your bum off the bench, and there's more subtle ways of cheating where you increase the weight but you compensate in other ways. You start cutting the range of motion, or you start using a really explosive tempo just to hoist the weight up without any control. The bench press shines because it's an easier exercise to master for beginners by comparison to the dip. You can start with just the bar or really light dumbbells in order to master technique at your own pace. Bulking up increases your bench almost linearly up to a certain point. You're laughing if you're packing on the kilos because your gym lift is going to go up. You've got more cushion for the pushing. Improved leverages. By having that increased fat around your upper body, it actually decreases the range of motion because you've got bigger chest, shoulders, and arms. Easier. As well, the bar path distance that the barbell has to travel is shorter because you've got a thicker torso. The lift actually becomes mechanically easier. I remember opting for the bench press instead of doing dips when I bulked last year. For me, the bench press was an enabling exercise for my complacency. It gave me this cognitive dissonance. The delusion of benching heavier because of the surplus was actually masking my subconscious, which was saying, hey mate, your rig is getting a little bit sloppy. Maybe hold off on those cheat meals. The exercise doesn't maketh the man. Dips aren't going to make you shredded. Bench press won't make you bulky. There's just a price to where your strengths lie. Given that benches, barbells, and dumbbells are accessible in every single good gym, it's no surprise that the bench press is a popular lift. Generally, there's less shoulder stress when you're doing a bench press by comparison to a weighted dip because the shoulder flexibility demands are less during a bench press, allowing you to hit your upper body muscles without drama. Unsurprisingly, the bench press has poor transfer to calisthenics exercises. Don't expect to unlock the planche or handstand push-up just because you can bench 2 plates or more. This is because with the bench press, not only are you lifting free weights, but you've got the external stability of the bench keeping your shoulders in place. It's really tempting to run someone else's race. You look at how much they're lifting and you try and force things. You try and force progress sooner than it actually is. You got to focus on yourself despite the temptation of the bench press being such a comparative lift. The advantage of bench press is you've got relatability. Everyone asks, hey bro, how much can you bench? And if you say, mate, I'm doing 2 plates as a warm-up, 3 plates as a PR, the person's mind is going to be blown. No one ever asks, hey man, how much do you dip? And if you say, I can do 60 kilos for a set of 5, the person will say, is that good? In terms of muscle activation, how does the dip compare to the bench press for hitting the chest? With the bench press, you're overloading horizontal pressing, which is going to target the entirety of your pecs. Then you can also do an incline bench press to bias the upper fibers of the chest. The dip is a vertical press, and based on the body position, it's going to emphasize more of the lower pecs as well as the sternal fibers of the chest. We just have to look at the torso angle in dips. We're leaning forwards, and this puts us in more of a horizontal pressing position. This posture is pretty comparable to that of a decline bench press, and the activation of what it does to the pecs is very similar. Next up, we have the arm path. During a dip, you're getting tons of shoulder extension. Your arms are going way back behind the torso. This is going to create a huge stretch through the chest, particularly the sternal fibers of the pecs. If you want a well-rounded physique, it's best to do both because you're training your muscles at a variety of angles for well-developed pecs. I've got a hybrid training system that's going to take out all the guesswork so you can get big with weights and strong at calisthenics, becoming a well-rounded beast that's muscular and capable. Here's why you should do both the dip and the bench press in your workouts. Variety is such an underrated workout principle. If I had to do only the bench press or only the dip for the rest of my life, I'd get burnt out, bored, and I'd probably stop working out. Where's the fun in just doing the exact same thing over and over for the rest of your life? Don't limit yourself. Most of you watching want to become a well-rounded beast, someone that's capable of lifting heavy weights, someone who looks like they actually lift with muscle mass and able to move your body freely through space with that superhuman strength. Unless your goal is competing in 1 rep max strength, say a power lifter doing the bench press or a street lifter doing the weighted dip, then it makes more sense to have a balanced approach to your training by doing both compound exercises. Another reason for combining both is injury prevention as well as movement diversity. The body can handle a lot, just not a lot of the same thing over and over. When you're prioritizing just one movement with too much frequency, intensity, and volume without a break, it's inherently riskier because you're stressing your joints and tendons in a very specific and repetitive way. If it's not matched with enough recovery, it's a recipe for injury risk. In the past, when all I did was dip because I wanted to specialize in this exercise, I ran into overuse injuries in my pecs, biceps, as well as my shoulders because that's all that I was doing. It's no surprise since making my program more diverse by including multiple presses like the bench press, the dip, and rotating exercises, my joints and tendons and my body at large is feeling much healthier. The truth is, progress eventually stalls, no matter how perfect your program. So an effective strategy for the goal of hypertrophy is doing both dips and bench press, but swapping which comes first in your workout week. For example, on day 1, you start with bench press and then finish with the dip. On day 2, you begin with the dip and you finish with your bench press. This avoids accommodation, which is your body getting used to doing the same thing over and over. It provides you with a novel stimulus to challenge yourself to improve. And by swapping that main lift and accessory, you're challenging yourself in a different way in each workout. Here's the best variations of the bench press and the dip to build muscle, get stronger, and train pain-free. The barbell bench press or the parallel bar dip. These are the first variations which come to mind when you think of the exercise. Don't get me wrong, these are great ways to train if they feel okay, but if either exercise is giving you grief, you don't have to suffer in silence or give up on these classic lifts completely. This is where exercise variation comes in. Please experiment with different types of equipment to get the benefits without the pain. Dumbbells are a great choice for benching, and they might just feel better on your joints and tendons. Dumbbells offer greater range of motion because you can stretch well below chest height by comparison to your standard barbell bench. They also demand more stability than barbells, which can make your rotator cuff more robust at the shoulder, making you more bulletproof. You're benefiting from a unilateral focused press where you're getting an equal stimulus on both left and right sides without your arm dominance taking over like it would on a barbell bench. Switching to calisthenics, rings are the perfect substitute if you're sick and tired of using bad parallel bar equipment at the gym. This is the calisthenics equivalent of using dumbbells. The freedom of movement feels incredible when you're doing your dips on this equipment. Many people swear by the rings for finally making it possible to train their dips pain-free, unlike which happens on the parallel bars in some cases. With ring dips, you're going to develop a pair of flexible, strong, robust shoulders, and of course, watermelon pecs. If your mind isn't blown from all that information, it's safe to say that both exercises are valuable for building upper body strength and muscle size. You're going to be missing out on gains if you're not bench pressing and doing dips. The sum is greater than the parts. Just doing bench press has limitations. Only doing dips is going to leave you with weak links. Combining both is where the magic happens. Bam! That is the next video I would like you to watch on the FitnessFAQs YouTube channel to continue learning and leveling up.